Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about one-step equations, okay? And seeing we've done one-step equations when we've done proportions, so uh, we'll probably go through this fairly fast, okay? And you will probably have more problems on your assignment today than normal, okay? Just because we've done it, so we'll get a little bit more practice in. All right, I know it's kind of hard to read at the top, but if you follow along with your packet or your the packet online, then you'll be able to read this, okay? So solving one-step equations. In order to solve an equation, we must isolate the variable, okay? So we're going to get that variable by itself, okay? So get the variable by itself and keep each side of the equation balanced, okay? We can use inverse operations, okay? So the inverse operation, we've talked about an inverse before, okay? To move terms from one side of the equation to the other. Inverse operations can be thought of as the opposite, okay? So we're doing the opposite of what is in the equation. Or undoing operations. Okay, so what operation takes place? That's your first question. Your second question is, what is the inverse of that operation? Well, here it is, inverse operation. So if we are adding, the inverse will be subtraction. Okay, so if we're adding in the equation, we need to subtract to move it to the other side. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. If we subtract, the inverse of that is addition. If we multiply, it is division. And this is the one that we've mostly worked on right here. Multiplication and then dividing. If you're dividing, then you're going to use multiplication to undo that operation. All right. So just some quick examples. So we have 4x equals 16. All right. Now this is what we've seen in our proportions before. So on this side, we are multiplying. Okay. Because anytime you have the coefficient and the variable together, and we know those terms now, so the coefficient and the variable, that's multiplication. All right, to undo multiplication, we're going to do division. So we're going to divide that 4 away from the x. Now, what you get 4 divided by 4, well, that leaves you 1. I have told you in previous videos that 1x is the same as x, because 1 times any number is what? That number. Okay? So we divide by 4 on each side, so then we have 16 divided by 4. Okay? So now we are left with x is equal to, well, 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay? So pretty simple. We've been doing these. Now, let's look at number 2. All right, we have x plus 9 is equal to 13. Okay? We want to figure out what x is. Okay? So we're doing addition. Okay? So the inverse of that would be subtraction. So we subtract 9 from this side. Subtract 9 from this side. So whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay? So we wanted to get this to 0. Well, 9 minus 9 is 0. So we're left with x. We'll bring the equals down. 13 minus 9, well, it's 4. Okay? All right, so we've done multiplication. This is addition. This one is subtraction. So what are we going to do with the subtraction? We're going to add, right? So we have x minus 8 equals 14. Well, I want to get this side to 0, these constants to 0, so I'm going to add 8. And I got to do it to both sides. So negative 8 plus 8 was 0. So that leaves me with x. Okay? If you remember, I told you to put, when we were combining like terms, I told you to put parentheses around each term and the operation in front of it. So now we see that's negative 8 plus 8. Well, that's 0. Okay? Now we have 8 plus 14. Now 8 plus 14 should give you what? 22. Okay? So that's multiplying. This is addition. And we're doing the inverse. So we divided here, we subtracted, we added. Okay? Now, when you see something like this, number 4, x over 5, well, that's division. It looks like a fraction, right? Well, a fraction is a division problem. So when we do division, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to multiply by 5. Okay? If the number is in your denominator, you're going to multiply, because it says x divided by 5. Okay? So we got to multiply by the denominator. Okay? All right, now I'm going to show you, because when it looks like this, we're going to assume it's like this for right now. So 5 times 1/5. And remember, when we were multiplying, then we had to divide. That was 1x. Okay, so let's just look. So 1 ABC 5 times, okay, so there's your fraction, okay, times 5. Well, that gave you 1, right? Okay, well, that gave you 1. That's just going to be x over here, because 1 times x is still x. Okay, and then now we have 13 times 5, okay, on this side. And that's going to give you 65. Okay, so there's some short examples, and that's what you're going to see. Okay, now let's go and look at a word problem. And we'll look at number 9 just because it shows up just a little bit better. Okay. Okay. Samuel is 6 inches taller than his brother, Elijah. If Samuel is 48 inches tall, how tall is Elijah? So, you will have word problems. Okay, you're going to have to figure out what the variable is, maybe write an equation, and then solve it. So what is the variable? What do we not know in this question? Well, it asks how tall is Elijah. Well, we don't know how tall he is. So we're going to say the height of Elijah. Okay. Now it says the equation. Well, let's read. Samuel is 6 inches taller than his brother Elijah. Okay. So if we don't know the height of Elijah, we know this is a variable, right? So we can just use x. Okay, so Samuel is 6 inches taller than Elijah. Well, we got 6 inches, and we're going to add 6 inches to what? Elijah's height. Okay? If Samuel is 48 inches tall, how tall is Elijah? Well, Elijah's height is 6 inches plus Elijah's height equals Sam's height. Okay, so this is where your 48 goes. Okay, because Elijah is shorter, okay, you're going to add that 6 inches, and that'll give you Samuel's height. Okay, now if it said Elijah was taller, if it said Samuel is 6 inches shorter than his brother Elijah, you would take Elijah's height and subtract the 6 inches, and then that would have gave you 48, which is Samuel's height. Okay, so the height of Elijah, x plus 6 inches, gives us Samuel's height of 48 inches. Okay, now we just solve. Okay, now I can write it like this, or I can write it like this. So Elijah's height plus 6 inches is equal to Samuel's height. Okay, so I got addition here. All right, so I'm going to do subtraction. Minus 6 on both sides. So Elijah's height is equal to 42 inches. Okay? Now, we'll keep practicing these a little bit later on, but for right now, like I told you, this is going to be a shorter video because we've already done one-step equations. Okay? We've already talked about one-step equations. So, we can kind of work through them just a little bit faster in the video in my explanation and get you to more practice. Okay? And you shouldn't have any trouble with the multiplication and doing the division part because we've done a lot of those in solving proportions. Okay? Now, just remember, you do the opposite operation. Okay? You do the opposite operation, basically undoing. So, and here it is. You need to write this down. If you do not have one of these packets, you need to write this down. And so you have it as notes later on, okay? Because when we do two-step equations tomorrow, it'll be the same. We're going to be talking about the same thing, okay? Instead of just doing one step, well, we're going to have 2 steps to do, okay? So addition, you're going to subtract. Subtraction, you will add the number. Multiplication, you will divide a number. And division, you're going to multiply that number. Okay, so you're going to do the opposite operation to undo it. Okay, so like I said, you're going to have a few more problems to do today, but we've already talked about one-step equations. You've already completed a lot of one-step equations like this, okay? So you already have somewhat of an understanding on how to do those. All right, have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.